Star Wars Battlefront Beta was this weekend, and although I had a few concerns with the decisions to cut major parts of the series, such as galactic conquest and space battles, I was pleasantly surprised at how much fun I was having playing Walker Assault and Drop Zone. These are but two of many game types that will be available November 17th when the game goes live, and today I'm going to be talking about my first impressions with the beta. First off, I found it incredibly addicting to play. I was able to sink roughly 20 hours of gameplay and net thousands of kills mainly playing Walker Assault on Hoth. Obviously, the first thing you'll notice when playing Battlefront is just how smooth all the trooper animations are. It really adds to the immersion of the game. Mix that with incredible graphics and great optimization makes the title really feel next gen. I'd like to mention that I'm running Battlefront on a GeForce GTX 770 and an i7-3820 on a 3-year-old machine, and it still plays on high settings at roughly 80 frames per second. If you have a relatively recent hardware and computer, you'll have no problem running Battlefront. And obviously for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 users, you guys don't have to worry about it. It'll run fine. Next is the third-person camera. Love it or hate it, you can't really deny how awesome it looks watching your trooper run through the snow dodging blaster rounds while hitting the jetpack into the air after narrowly missing a grenade. My only criticism here is how it's really hard not to use third person if you want to do well in Battlefront. While in third person you gain the advantage of peeking corners and looking through cover and gaining a much greater field of view compared to the first person players. It also feels like it's easier to land shots in third person as you don't feel the recoil as much whenever you're firing your gun. I think for players that are coming from the Battlefield series that have never played a Battlefront game before, this could be a deal breaker. But for those like me who are veterans of the franchise, you'll know that first and third person gameplay added a nice touch to the game, and I personally hope it remains untouched. Player customization and classes work completely different in Battlefront as well. Unlike previous titles, you don't choose your class. Instead, you customize your character with cards that you can purchase with credits. Some of the items have quantities and some are permanent. In the beta, we could choose a variety of items such as the thermal detonator, cycler rifle, ion shots, ion grenade, jump pack, personal shield, and player trait sharpshooter. This gives you the opportunity to build the trooper the way you want to play instead of having to choose predetermined options. Although I'll miss my recon trooper from Battlefield 2, I think this is a great idea. You can also customize how your player looks, but unfortunately we were unable to see this option in the beta. Let's talk about weapons in the Battlefront beta. It features 4 blasters, the AZ-80C, the E11, the DH-17, and the DLT-19. The AZ-80C is the Rebel Alliance default weapon. It's balanced, meaning the damage and the rate of fire is the same, making it my favorite of the 4. And it's also kind of just that default blaster. If you want something that is pretty much good for all situations, that's the AZ-80C. Next, you have the E11. It's the Empire default weapon. It trades fire rate for damage, making it the slowest blaster in the beta. I sometimes prefer using the E11 in Walker Assault due to having long-range encounters with the cycler rifle follow-ups. The DH-17 is the blaster pistol that sacrifices damage for rate of fire and cooling power. The DH-17 is probably the most popular choice for Drop Zone as it devastates troopers in close range. I find it rather useless in Walker Assault unless I'm clearing hallways. The DLT-19 is the heavy blaster LMG. It has the highest rate of fire, the lowest damage, and the highest cooldown power of all of the blasters. A lot of people use the DLT-19 because of how many rounds you can fire per minute. In Walker Assault, you have 20 enemies, sometimes all zerging in one area, so it's really nice to be able to put down a lot of suppressive fire with this thing. And, you know, with the rate of fire being so incredibly high, it kind of stacks up compared to the other rifles that you can choose. There's a lot of times where I'll encounter somebody with a DLT-19 in close range when I have an AZ-80C, and they'll usually win just because of how many rounds they can fire at my chest before I can actually get a couple shots in. So overall, those are the 4 blasters that you can choose. I guess I'm just going to throw in the cycler rifle. It is a card, it's a player customization, but it is a weapon. It's the 5th weapon of the beta. It's a single shot sniper rifle that has a pretty fast cooldown. You don't have any ammo count, just like all the other weapons in Star Wars Battlefront. So every single time it's off cooldown, you can use it and get a one-shot kill pretty much anywhere. It's 90 damage to the chest and 1 shot in the head. So if you have a really good trigger finger and you can aim for the head, you're going to be getting a lot of kills with the cycler rifle. It's also devastating to hit somebody in the chest doing 90 damage and then just flipping to your blaster and hitting 1 or 2 shots. That's all it's going to take, and they're going to drop. It's probably the most popular combination. I think it's, for the beta at least, mostly every single player has the cycler rifle because it's so good. But that's a lot of recon troopers, and that's a lot of them. So I don't know if it's going to remain so OP. I suspect there's going to be some changes to the cycler rifle before the game launches November 17th. Now let's talk about the vehicles. There are a number of vehicles to choose in the Walker Assault mission on both the Rebellion and the Empire. Let's start off with the Empire. You get the option to use the AT-AT during Walker Assault, and it packs a major punch. The trade-off is you only get 60 seconds with it, and you are unable to control where it walks. At the beginning of Walker Assault, it really doesn't give you a good position, so it's not as crazy, but as the game progresses, the AT-AT is absolutely insane. You can rack up dozens of kills with it. You get the option to do a orbital strike, which actually just shoots a bunch of explosive rounds in a small radius, and you get to control where that goes. Your standard, well, not standard, vehicle blasters that just kind of shoot off. It has a cooldown just like your gun, but it does major damage. And then also you have these little bit more powerful blasters that shoot kind of explosive rounds, and that's on a cooldown as well. For the most part, the AT-AT is insane, and if you can get into it a lot, you're going to get a lot of kills. Next is the AT-ST, the only ground mobile unit in the beta. It is able to fire grenade launchers, blaster rounds, and a rocket that is able to take out turrets and other vehicles. A lot of players like to sit back and try to pick off players with the AT-ST, but I found it more viable to use its speed as its advantage to get behind enemy lines before they realize it's there and just blast the objectives with the grenade launcher. I've got a 50 kill streak with an AT-ST, so that's going to be going up on my channel very soon. It's absolutely insane if you can get into proper positioning with it. For air power, you have the standard TIE Fighter, which is equipped with rockets, lasers, and a speed boost that helps you evade rockets. You also have the TIE Interceptor, which is technically the same. It just is a little bit more agile. You get the same rockets, the same blasters, and the same speed boost. Not too original there, but they are fun to fly, so one or the other, I do just as well with both of them. I only notice slight differences with the Interceptor, making it a little bit better, but it could just be in my own mind. They could be identical. On the Rebellion, you only have air power. Let's start with the X-Wing. You get the standard air blasters, a lock-and rocket, and a powerful shield that temporarily makes you invulnerable. This ability makes the Rebel fighters much better than the Empires, like much better. Like the Interceptor, there's the A-Wing as well, that's similar to the X-Wing. You have the same abilities with just a little bit more agility. Lastly, you have the Airspeeder. It's incredibly difficult to handle, and it only really is built to take out the AT-ATs. I think out of all the vehicles, this one needs major work. I feel like you can't move up or down or left or right unless you're going extremely fast. You don't have lock-on rockets, the blasters fire much slower than the rest of the fighters, and you can go off radar for like a few seconds, but you're really only delaying the inevitable before an interceptor comes and takes you out. During the final uplink, you can take the speeder close to the AT-AT and press forward to hook and tie up its legs. It can be really hard to do considering how many other fighters and enemies are going to be shooting at you while doing this. But I have been able to do it, I just wasn't able to record it. Who knows, maybe by the time I upload this video I might have a small clip to share with you guys. Who knows. One of the biggest criticisms I have about the fighters is the cinematic that plays before you control your craft. Most of the time you already have a fighter locked onto you behind you before you leave the cinematic, making them kill you instantly. And I recommend removing this completely or allowing players to fly into the zone through a protected space that only their side can fly in just at the start, because it's just being spawn camped like crazy. At least on Hoth that's the case. I don't know, maybe that's a benefit of having air superiority. I'm not too sure, but it is definitely overpowered. Okay, now let's talk about the Jedi. Okay, honestly, this was probably my least favorite thing about the beta. Luke and Vader just felt out of place. Their animations seemed to be far worse than the troopers, and their dialogue seemed overly cheesy. Unlike Battlefront 2, you are unable to regenerate health by killing enemies, and you also lose health over time, so you really only get around 100 seconds, and that's if you take no damage to use the Jedi. They also seem really easy to kill, but that doesn't really bother me that much because I didn't buy this game to play as any Jedi. I didn't. I just wanted to jump in as a trooper and kill some shit. That's basically it. As Vader, you can force choke people and throw your saber and rush towards the enemy and kind of fly through the air, and your cape kind of flows. And as Luke, you have a force push, a dash forward, and a 360-degree swipe. As Luke and Vader, you can also hold right click to deflect the blaster rounds at your enemies, and you can actually deflect the rounds back at them and killing them. A lot of times you'll get surrounded by a number of troopers that are all shooting you, especially if they have like a DLT-19. You'll just like reflect all those rounds back and kill a bunch of people. But overall, they just seemed incredibly underwhelming. But I really don't care, as I rarely go for these power-ups anyway. Speaking of power-ups, there's a number of different ones you can find on the map, such as turrets, thermal imploders, orbital strikes, rocket launchers, and more, and they're always worth picking up. You can see them as their little hexagons that are around the map that are kind of just floating around. I always go for them, but keep in mind, if you have one of these power-ups, you can't actually get a vehicle power-up, so make sure that you use them before you're going for your ATST or your fighters. Lastly, let's talk about the game modes. First, we have Walker Assault. It's the 40-man game mode that takes place on Hoth. The Rebellion need to kill the 2 AT-ATs that are attacking the generator, and you must enable 2 Y-Wing uplinks. The longer the uplinks remain active, the more Y-Wings will attack the walkers per section. The Y-Wings don't actually do damage to the AT-ATs, they just disable the shields. It's up to the players and the pilots to do the damage. There are 3 major There are 3 main sections where uplinks are needed to be defended. There's 2 uplinks that always need to be defended. And during the final phase, the Rebellion can use their air speeders to tie up the legs of the AT-AT, but it's not easy considering how many interceptors will be on the field. Rebellion can also call down orbital strikes to quickly kill an AT-AT, but that's only if the players know that it does that. These are found at random power-up locations. It goes without saying that the Rebellion usually lose this game type unless the team knows what they're doing. And obviously this was the beta, so it's going to take some time for people to really understand how to win Hoth. Originally, I thought it was impossible, but once you learn how it's played, with a couple friends, you can do it with relative ease. Drop Zone is the 8v8 game type, where the Rebels and the Empire fight over escape pods that fall into the map. Each pod needs to be held for 60 seconds to earn a point. The first to 5 points, or the highest by the end of the time, wins. When an escape pod is captured, it shoots at 3 power-ups that can be used by the team, so it makes it very valuable to go and actually capture these pods. Well, you're going to lose the game if you don't capture it, but it just adds to the value of capturing these pods, like turrets and all that kind of stuff. But that's essentially it. I mean, that's pretty much all you do in that game type. It's the most balanced of the two, so if you're tired of kind of losing as the Rebels all the time, jump into Drop Zone because it's going to be even. It's 8v8, everybody gets the same options, the same weapons, they just look slightly different. So if you want to be very nitpicky, the Rebellion actually have a slight advantage because they're easier to be concealed on that map rather than the Stormtroopers. Meh. But anyways, guys, that basically sums up my review of Star Wars Battlefront Beta. What did you guys think of the beta? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Deli Slob. I stream every single day starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch. Check the description box for details. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Battlefield content coming in the future. Alright guys, have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.